Welcome to the Write, Publish, Market podcast. If you're a business owner thinking a book would be a great marketing asset for your business, you're in the right place. Maybe you've already committed, even better. I'm your host, Jodi Brandon, book publishing strategist and partner for business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs, and 20 plus year veteran of the book publishing industry. On the Write, Publish, Market podcast, in addition to learning from me and other industry experts, you'll hear from other business owners about their experiences as we explore all facets of writing, publishing, and marketing a book that will help your business grow in ways you might not even be dreaming of yet. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Let me tell you about today's guest. With a career spanning more than 2 decades as a top-tier publicist, Isabelle Knight has worked alongside industry titans in film, television, and publishing, including the likes of J.K. Rowling and the BBC. Isabelle runs the online consultancy Build Your Author Brand, where she works with authors of both fiction and nonfiction books to teach the crucial tools and strategies to raise their profile, grow a readership, and increase their overall success. All right. Welcome, Isabelle. I'm so happy to talk to you today. Finally.
Thanks. I know. Finally, we got here in the end. Thanks, Jodi. It's great to be here.
Tell our listeners, Isabelle, I did read your formal intro, but give us a little, real quick, who you are, what you do in your own words. Not formal.
So I'm Isabelle Knight. I work with authors. I work with indie, self-published, small press authors mainly. I also work with some trad published authors to build your author brand, as I call it. So my background, I had worked as a high-level publicist for over 20 years in film and TV and books. Got to work with people like J.K. Rowling. And then about 3.5 years ago, I started working with a couple of indie authors who were writing books for their businesses. So, they were female entrepreneurs, and I was helping them to understand how they might go about using PR and publicity to help them with their book releases. And that kind of opened up a whole world for me of indie self-publishing, where I understood for the first time, I'd never really come across it before, that there were all of these authors publishing books who were really kind of, for want of a better word, kind of stumbling around in the dark a little bit, trying to figure out what to do once they'd written their books and they'd worked really hard on their books, how to actually bring those books to their audiences, not just to make book sales, but to actually have their book read and for it to have an impact. So that's when I started. I thought, well, I've got all this expertise and all these resources and all this knowledge that isn't really accessible or available for people doing it on their own. So that's when I launched my business as it is now, which is Build Your Author Brand. So I stopped being a publicist that kind of does the smoke and mirrors thing and goes off and produces a PR campaign for you, and you've got absolutely no idea how that was done and what was involved, and you just kind of go, oh right, okay, and leaves the author kind of none the wiser at the end as to what just happened. And I thought, well, I'm going to actually try and teach the authors how to do this for themselves. So that was a long answer to the question.
I love that. I love that because first of all, you came to what you're doing so organically, but I also didn't realize my background is similar, that I came from traditional publishing and then got like a couple of clients who had came to me because they didn't have that education piece, because book publishing there's so much gatekeeping in traditional book publishing. So that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, so let's start, like at the very beginning then, like define author brand, because I think that's something that's one of those sort of phrases that people hear and they think they might know what it is, but how do you define it as the basis and the foundation for the work you do with authors?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question to start with, because it is important to define what I'm talking about when I'm talking about brand, because I gave a talk recently where at the event that I think we were both at, weren't we, in Las Vegas at the end of last year. And somebody had put, this wasn't the brand definition that I thought was going to be covered in the talk. And I thought, well, yeah, that's, because right when I start talking to authors, I say, I'm not going to be speaking about visuals and logos and how your branding looks. Kind of, I'm not talking about book covers and title treatments. all of the kind of visual stuff and logos and, how the website looks and all that kind of thing would tend to fall under the branding, and you would get designers and visual people. So when I'm talking about brand, what I'm really talking about is, what do people think of, or what do they associate with you as the author and your books when they come across you and your books? Whether it's for the first time, whether it's for the 8th time, whether it's for the 100th time, whether they are fans of yours, whether they've never heard of you before. What is it? What's the kind of impression that you are giving for your books and you as the author? So the way we do this, so it's kind of looking at holistically, looking at all of the different pieces that you do as an author to bring your books to your readers, to build out that readership, that audience, and to, essentially to build your success as an author. So what is that? What's going on there? And that's what I'm working on when I'm working on the brand with an author.
Interesting. I think that's especially important. The listeners of this podcast are almost exclusively business owners. So I feel like that's something, in some ways, I feel like business owners have a leg up on that, just like that work. But then in other ways, trying to fit then the book piece into everything that they're already doing sometimes trips people up.
Yes, I think it does. I've worked with business owners they have successful businesses. They've been running their business for a while. They're very, very confident in how they speak to their audience and how they engage with clients and potential clients, and they're very good at that. But when it comes to a book, suddenly they start, they're seeing that as something different, and it can feel really overwhelming. When suddenly people are going, all right, so you're an author now, and they go, oh my God, I'm an author. What does that mean?
Right.
Yeah. And so part of what I do, especially with business owner authors, is it's helping them to kind of step into that role and embody what being an author means, as well as being a business owner. Most business owners write their books to impart their knowledge, their expertise, and to position themselves as an authority in their field, and a book is brilliant for doing that. But of course, as I always say to everybody, the book won't do that by itself. The book ultimately can't talk. You have to do the talking for it.
Yes.
And you have to speak for it and bring it to the readers. So yeah, that's where
I love that. Yeah. I want to talk more about that connection piece. But before that, one of the things that I wrote down at your talk in Las Vegas was where you made the distinction between an author brand and an author bio. So could we just speak to that real quick? Because I think that's one of the misconceptions. As soon as you say it's not about those visuals, then people, in my mind, automatically are going to, oh, then it's just my about the author paragraph on the back of my book or whatever.
Right. So the about the author and the author bio, the vast majority of authors have a bio that gives us what I term it the nuts and bolts version of who you are, which in real English means the kind of the factual version of who that author is. So probably if you're a business owner author, you've probably got something like, runs their business, works with XYZ, speaking about your ideal client, or solves this problem. And it might have something about your qualifications. It might have something about, what college you went to. It might have something about awards that you've won for your business and that kind of thing. So it's probably going to be filled with lots of facts, which whilst, that's great for really kind of cementing the fact that you're an expert and an authority in your field. That in itself isn't going to make a reader pick up your book, especially if they have never heard of you before, they've never come across you, they don't know you, they don't know your business. So seeing that author bio, it might sound impressive, but it's not going to speak to the part of the brain that says, I need to read this book and I need to buy it now. So what I do is I work on something I call the author brand story, which, it could be seen as an author bio of sorts, and an author, it's still that you're telling people about yourself. However, what we're doing is we're we're kind of painting a picture with words that lets your potential readers know why your book is for them. And within that, we have to answer the questions, why did you particularly write this book? So what is it about you that made you so special that you had to write this book, which is so special and which your reader absolutely needs to read? So what is in it for them?
Right.
We need to answer that. And we need to show them, why should they be picking up your book and not another person who's written about the same thing, who's running a similar business to you and has written a book that deals with some of the same stuff. So how are we going to get them to pick up your book and not another one?
Yeah. I feel like it takes the what of the author bio and then what, right? Almost goes deeper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's some mindset stuff that comes up here. Is that fair to say? Because I feel like as a book coach and strategist, I deal with way more mindset than I ever thought I would be. Yes. Even with confident business owners. Yes. They're confident in their zone of genius, but like you were saying, this is such a new, overwhelming world for them that I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do we build out that author brand story?
So with the author brand story, doing this process has a kind of magical result in that once you dig right into, when I do this work with authors, I say to them, tell me, how did you get here? Like, how did you arrive at this point where you are today, the business owner you are, the author you are now? Tell me what have been the steps that brought you here. And so, they'll tell me about their life and I'll kind of draw them out on, what were their motivations? What were the things they loved? Like how did they get to be here today? And once we dig into those passions and those motivations, it has a magical kind of effect, which it makes people go, yes, I am here for a reason. I am here because it means something to me.
Right. So
when we really tap into that, what does it mean to you as the author? Nobody just wakes up one day and says, I know, I'll write a book about this. Writing a book, as you know, as a book coach, is an endeavor. It's not
a big
something
undertaking.
You're just going to do just like that. Yeah. Right. You've got to be committed to it.
Yep.
So why put yourself through that unless you really care about what you're writing? Yeah. So if we tap into that, then suddenly it gives you that sense of confidence because it makes you go, yes, I do care about this. And then when we work on the ideal reader side of it, it brings the side of, and I know there are other people out there who are also going to care about this thing.
Yeah.
Which suddenly makes that whole, when people talk about book marketing and it makes everyone cringe and go, oh God, that's the last thing they want to do. When suddenly it becomes about reaching other people who also care about the thing that you wrote about.
Yeah. Hey there, business owner and aspiring or published author. Sorry to interrupt this episode. Just wanted to check in and see if you're subscribed to Coffee and Commas, my email newsletter, where I share behind the scenes, industry info, and much more about writing, publishing, and marketing a book for your business. Sign up at bit.ly/coffee and commas sign up. That's all lowercase. Now back to the show. Well, I find too that the book marketing piece is, there's so many cliches about that in our world, right? You thought the writing was the hard part, blah, 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 all those things. Yeah. But I think that if you can nail and really, really get it right with this piece, it shapes your messaging. And then if your messaging is right and on target, then marketing becomes so much easier and it doesn't feel like such a slog.
No, that's right. That's right. The worst, and I see it, and I'm sure you do all the time, every day. We both see on social media authors going, oh my God, I can't face another day of having to post about my book on social media. This is painful. This is awful. And it's the last thing we want to do. Whereas if we can turn that on its head and go, well, if you don't approach it as, I've got to I've got to talk about my book again. What on earth am I going to say? And actually you turn it into, do you know what? I'm going to talk about this subject that I care really passionately about that is going to help people. If you've got a service business, which I'm sure you work with loads of service business providers. So, and if they're helping somebody, they're passionate about that, and they could probably
Yes.
talk about that forever.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we approach the book marketing in the same way, that we say,
Yeah.
we're just going to talk about this thing that we really care about, and
Yes.
and we're going to talk about it in the right places, and that's really key.
Yep.
In the right places where we're going to reach the people that will also care about this.
Yeah.
So they're going to find me, they're going to find the book. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that mindset shift again, right? It's
Yes.
more about connecting and sharing versus like selling.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we take the selling, that awful word selling out of it, yeah. it's kind of removing the triggers, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's removing the painful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you speak a little bit about in the right places, like you just talked about?
Yes.
Showing up in the right places.
Yeah. So this is one area where after the what do we say about the book, and then the who do we say it to, then comes the, okay, so, how do we do that then? How do we find the people?
Yeah.
So this is one thing that authors really struggle with. And this is where, obviously as a publicist, I've spent my entire career figuring out, if we want to speak to, mums who are trying to set up a business for the first time and with small children, if we want to reach that audience, where are we going to find them? Where are they hanging out? So it's always thinking about, to do this, you really have to know who your ideal reader is.
Yes.
Yeah. So we can't get on to where do they hang out until we've nailed the who are they.
Yep.
So once we know the who are they, and for business owners, I mean, you will have a head start on this because you've been speaking to these people already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because really, it's no different than saying who are my clients, who are my readers.
Yeah. Once you can get past but really everybody.
Right.
Once you can get past that, you can really, I think, and I do think this is where business owners have the head start, because they've already done the work of figuring out, clearing out, no, these are not my ideal clients. This is who I love to work with. This is who I can help the most. This is who I connect with the most. So they do have some of that. But again, it's that foundational work.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yeah. Because if you haven't been in business very long, and it's absolutely the case that some people come to writing a book when they're quite new in the business process. Mm-hmm. So if you're still figuring out who actually is my ideal reader or my audience or my clients, then there's some work to do there about who are we speaking to. And I'm sure as a book coach, you probably work on that part as well.
Yeah. Yes, very often.
Who is the book for, right? Yep. Because it's never for everybody. And I know loads of authors, that's what they want to say. They just want to, because everyone can get something from this book.
Yeah.
But that's never the place to start from.
Right.
If we can really narrow it down more than you are comfortable with, because you counterintuitively, you think I'm cutting off my potential readers by narrowing down on this very, very niche group. Yep. But actually you're doing the reverse. By narrowing down in the very niche group, then you are pinpointing, right, those are my readers. Then you've got a much better chance of reaching them, of them reading your book, and then that lovely ripple effect that starts to happen once people do discover your book and start to speak to other people about it, which takes time. That will not happen overnight. That will take time. But as it progresses, more of the right people will find your book, and then other people who actually weren't in your little narrow category will also find it, and that's how our audience will expand to reach other kinds of people. But we have to start with getting more niche than you really want to, I think.
Yeah. I would love to hear if you find this also. Lots and lots of people logically get that I would rather have a small group of really engaged, interested people versus, wide, what is it? Like wide, something and deep, narrow and deep, or wide and shallow or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
Until it's actually happening and it's not like growing fast enough, like their audience isn't growing fast enough, their book sales aren't coming quick enough. And then they're like, but wait, I really, so I think they get it. But once it's actually happening and not moving as quickly enough, then they're like, but do I want that? And then that's when they start trying
other things,
all kinds of, bananas, nutty things.
Yes, that's right. And, and the antidote to this, I would always say is, if you're getting frustrated and thinking, well, I'm speaking to these people and they're not buying it quick enough, then audience isn't growing quick enough. Double down, speak to them even more, engage with them even more than, do more than you think you need to.
Yeah.
So that you're really, when you're at the point where you can literally name your 10 biggest fans, yeah, and you can reel off their names, they're real people.
Yeah.
And you've had exchanges with them, either they've dropped you a comment or they've left you a review and you've gone, thanks very much, until you've got that kind of relationship has started going.
Yeah.
Then we can start to think, oh, right, where else could I go now?
Yes, yeah? I love that. And you're right. That is counterintuitive and can be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard.
It's hard,
easy.
But
it's not easy. Is it?
I hope no one listening thinks that, as we're talking about it so casually, that we're minimizing, because absolutely not. No. Absolutely not. So, okay. What would be, like your biggest piece of advice? Like, what's the first thing someone should ask themselves as they're thinking about, okay, I need to create an author brand story? Where should they start?
So they should start with, and I always say to people, like, throw out all the marketing kind of, all the expectations that you've picked up, like stop the social media feed just to give yourself space. To really think about, okay, what's my author brand story? What is your own position, your own book? So stop looking at other people's feeds for a moment, throw out all the marketing stuff and just sit down and go, right, ask yourself, why did I write this book? And why did you write this book particularly? Why did you come up with this, not somebody else? What is it about your particular experiences, expertise, knowledge, values, personal motivations and goals? What is it about you that led you to write this book? Start with that. Start by answering those questions. And then you can also say, why did you feel you had to write this book right now? Yeah, that's another big one. Because making your book, and I'm sure you do this as well, making your book relevant, is very, very important. So why is your book relevant right now for your audience?
Yeah. I love that you also start that advice by quieting the noise, because I feel like doing that work is so much easier in a quiet environment, quote unquote, right? I mean, there's so much noise. We don't even, I think we realize it on some level, but I think in other ways we don't even realize how it's, impacting us. And to do like deep foundational work like this, I think it's so much easier if the noise is quiet.
Because I know business owners do it, authors do it when they go, right, I'm going to start this. Okay, what's everyone else doing? I need to see, like, what are they doing? I need to get some inspiration. I need to see how they're doing it first. And I always say, don't worry about what other people are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. This was a fantastic discussion. I mean, I could, every time I have one of my book people on, I'm like, oh, we could talk all day. But this is super, super helpful. Before we ask where readers can, or readers, I guess, listeners can best find you, I need a reading recommendation. I don't let anybody leave the podcast without a reading recommendation. So my book people always have good ones.
Right. I'm reading a really great fiction novel right now.
Okay.
Called I'm Sorry You Feel That Way by Rebecca Waite, who is a British writer, and it's about family dynamics set in England. One book that is on my TBR pile right now, which is a business book, The Mountain Is You. Do you know that one?
Oh, I don't know that one.
Brianna, now it's Wiest. So I don't know whether West or West. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But The Mountain Is You, which has come to me highly recommended. So that is next on my list.
Okay. What is that about? Do you know?
I think it's kind of standing in your power as a business person.
Oh, love that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to check that one out. That sounds great. That's a great title. Okay, so before you even say where the best place for listeners to find you is, I'm going to tell everyone right now, if you're not following Isabelle on Threads, go follow Isabelle on Threads because your Threads content is fantastic. But where would you send readers? We have everything in the show notes, but where's the best place quickly for readers to go or listeners?
My website, easy place to go, buildyourauthorbrand.com. I also have my own podcast, which is Build Your Author Brand, and that's on iTunes, Spotify, and it's on YouTube as well. If you listen to the first few episodes of that, then you'll get all the good stuff.
I love it. This was so wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on and being my guest. I loved this conversation so much.
Oh, me too. Anytime, Jodi. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Write, Publish, Market podcast. I know just how busy business owners and CEOs' schedules are, and I'm grateful you've taken some time out of yours to spend with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, take a quick screenshot and share it on social to let others know you're listening. Use the hashtag Write, Publish, Market to spread the love.